All right, everybody, Stocks by the Numbers, welcome back. And today is Thursday. We got a bunch of earnings coming out after the close here today, T-minus about 75 minutes. But I wanted to take a look here at this company that we looked at before, and we can see it's kind of been bouncing around inside of this channel. We had a recent pop here with some geopolitical news that came out, and this is why this was this quarter specifically that I was waiting for personally for Ammo Incorporated, ticker symbol POWW, listed here on the NASDAQ. Stock right now, $2.21, up 4 cents, a little over 2% here on the day. And I just want to show you what happened. If you recall the conflict with the Middle East, that's when this stock actually took off. And basically, along with all other defense stocks as well, they all saw that massive pump throughout that October explosion, so to speak, no pun intended, because of the conflicts that were taking place in the Middle East. And we can see that the stock was trading really just a couple of cents below $2. And then before we knew it, the stock was up here $3.15. So we saw roughly a 50% move just off that news, right? And then everyone kind of took profits. We dropped back below this top trend line here, back into this consolidated channel here that I pointed out last time. And you can see, as earnings came out here, this was just a slight miss, but they obviously beat the stock up because it just ran up so much, right? So then we dropped down, we had our bounces, and this is what's been going on as of late. And if you notice, you can see the stock is actually making higher lows and slight higher highs, right? So usually that means that the stock is trending upward. However, we have earnings coming out today after the close. We can see estimates on the EPS side, loss of about 1.5 cents. Estimates on the revenue side, just a touch below 35 million. And that's usually about the range that this company seems to be reporting, in those like low to mid 30 million range for the quarter. However, we can see again over the years, which is why I personally like the stock, we can see the jump up in revenue since 2020, going from 16 million, essentially almost quadrupling that up to 240 million. And then of course for 2022 we had the slight pullback down to about 191 million. But you can see, looking at the quarters, it actually doesn't look too hot, and we can see that the revenue does come in kind of sporadically. Again, you can see back-to-back quarters the company posting about 34 million and change. But more importantly also, the net margin percentage was climbing up and got to almost minus 3% here. And then we can see as of last quarter, they come in with a loss of about 7.5 million, and net margin percentage sitting at around minus 22%. But more importantly, again, this conflict took place in October, and you can see here the company's reporting earnings for the period ending December, right? So October, November, December, those are the months that this company is about to report. So technically, if they did immediately see a pop, if orders were put in for ammo for the Middle East conflict, then we would probably make the assumption, of course we know it's not good to assume, and it's much easier to react than it is to predict, but I basically always said, in my opinion, around this $2 level here, again, you can see we have a market cap of about $250 million for a company that's bringing in, 190, 200, 240 million a year. So it's basically just generally looking at the numbers, yearly revenue to market cap comparison. In my opinion, I actually do still think this is a nice long-term buy, long-term hold. And chances are, if these numbers are higher above these estimates here because of the conflict in the Middle East, then in my opinion, we're probably going to pop up at least to the top of this consolidated channel here, which is looking like about 260. And then I mentioned this key level last time, which you see again, we popped up and then immediately pulled back and rejected below it. But this level right here, as you see, 286. So of course, that's best case scenario. We pop up, we fill that gap, and we start moving into the threes. Of course, that's possible. It all depends on what the company reports. But I did want to re-mention this one with these earnings coming up, and I mentioned it multiple times in the Discord. Again, Discord link in the description of every video, free to come in. And I basically mentioned that after seeing this pop, and of course waiting for the earnings here for the period ending that time frame, I did say to everyone, don't forget about POW, and you may want to consider, in my opinion, taking a position in POW with these earnings coming up here in early February. And now we're here. So I do say, in my opinion, again, not exactly sure what's going to happen on the profitability side, but if I were a betting man, in my opinion, again, earnings plays, in my opinion, are 100% a gamble. So please please, please understand the risks involved. But in my opinion, I would be a buyer of POW, honestly, with or without these earnings. But again, because this is the earnings for the period ending during that geopolitical conflict, I would absolutely consider taking a position in POW here going into earnings. But overall, I do like the company. And again, the last couple of quarters have been a little bit rough, but it might be an outside political catalyst like that may help pump up the revenue numbers for this stock. And then I'm sure a couple of institutions may come out and say, oh, I'm upping the price target to, $2.90, $3, $3.30 or whatever. So we all know what happens when that happens. So that's why we could potentially see a little bit of a spark come back into POW here. Looking at stock charts very quickly, I'll let you go. We can see the RSI here going all the way back to about mid-August. We can see we got above 70 just at one point and kind of immediately stopped. And again, that was middle of October when the Middle East conflict happened. So everyone piled into the defense stocks. We can see that it has been below the moving average for a couple of months here, and just as of late, in the last couple of weeks now, we popped above this 50-day moving average and have been holding nicely. And also staying above that mid-Bollinger Band, that green dotted line there in the center. So, in my opinion, it seems pretty technically sound here at this level, again, making slightly higher highs and higher lows. So, again, that's why I'm saying I'm seeing a lot of indicators in my eyes that we could potentially see a pop after hours instead of a drop. But we have the MACD basically flattening here, which kind of tells me that if they do happen to come in light on the revenue, then obviously they're going to tank it down and chunk it down, and the MACD is going to cross, and that's going to help the sell-off. If they do miss, maybe back here to like this key level, where when the stock was selling off, you can see the bounce right there, the bottom body of that candle is about $1.90. Right? So we could potentially have, even back to this fib, you can see is about $1.96. So if we do happen to have a miss, you are potentially exposed for about a 10 to 15% drop here. And obviously, if you jump in calls, you may take an even greater hit. But overall, I do still like it. And I would probably have higher conviction, again, random ad, I would probably have higher conviction on the call side today as opposed to the put side. You can see the curling here over the last couple of months. MACD potentially about to cross to the upside there on the weekly. And again, you can see a pop even to the top of this Bollinger Band here, 274. And what was the mark that I said? Well, here is 261, 262, and then about 286. So we could, again, have another pop and a breakout above the Bollinger Band like we did here, and we can see potentially high twos coming out after earnings. This 200-day moving average, 382, it might take back-to-back quarters for the company to rally that high, but again, it really depends what they're going to report and what they're going to forecast. We can see the RSI basically staying in between our benchmarks. We had a slight dip here, the tail end of 23, but then we had the very nice bounce as soon as the bull dropped. So our RSI right now on the weekly, basically middle of the road, sitting here at about 50. So not a lot of technical indicators, aside, again, on the daily, staying above the 50-day moving average and the mid-Bollinger Band here. But in my opinion, overall, I've been talking the stock up, so I would assume that, again, with the conflict in the Middle East, the company should really beat expectations. If, with this conflict and the initial pop, if the company happens to report lighter revenue again now for what? That would be like almost 3 quarters in a row. Then I would potentially consider giving it some time and stepping away, because we never know. They can beat this up all the way down here to this second support level here of about 1 3/4. So if these numbers do come in light, and this is something that you were just keeping an eye on and you're in wait and see mode, if the numbers do come in light, I would probably not personally immediately jump on that dip down here to sub $2 if they miss today, because chances are they could probably take it a little bit lower. But we could always do an update video after earnings. And here on the weekly, 227. You can see this week we hit 222 and had a slight pullback. Next support 140. That seems a little drastic. But up here on next resistance level here at a 298. So as you can see, we have a lot of indicators back up here in the high twos. So that's why I'm saying if everything goes according to plan, and if this company did receive a couple of orders during the Middle East conflict when it jumped off mid-October, then we have a very high chance for this company to beat analyst expectations today after the close. And that's pretty much all I have to say. Oh, also, in recent news, you can see a couple weeks ago, Ammo signs brass case supply deal worth over $10 million with ZRO Delta, right? So this is what I mean. This company, it's, you know, they hit these small base hits, right? We're not really seeing home runs, so to speak. But again, we don't know what could have happened here during these months, right? For all we know, the company may have received massive orders and they might come out and post like 42 million for the quarter or something like that, right? So then they're going to pump the stock back up. But it's these slow, steady base hits like this, just consistently signing these deals. That obviously is a positive, not a negative. But something similar almost reminds me of a Soundhound, right? Which we're seeing a nice rebound today. Stock hit $2, bouncing off those 170 dips that we saw recently, but almost a similar situation, right? Now, Soundhound on the other hand has kind of been consistently coming in above revenue expectations, so of course they're not exactly the same, but what I'm talking about is it's a similar small cap company. They're both making, you know, like tens of millions, and Soundhound, if you follow the news, is just slowly hitting these base hits, having people come out saying, you know, that their software, their tech is performing well, and they're slowly, you know, signing new deals, Krispy Kreme, Jersey Mike's, right? These are all little base hits. These aren't necessarily home runs. But if we add up all the base hits, that's what could be a potential recipe for a nice long-term grower. And over time, we really don't know what's going to happen with POW. But again, ammunition company coming out with like those tracer bullets and whatnot. If you go on the website, they talk a lot about the technology and the types of ammunition that they bring to the table. So I do still feel, in my opinion, that we have some really nice long-term potential here with POW. But the catalyst we really need here as of late, as you see, is just the inconsistencies in the revenue. See, we have a nice beat here coming in above 40 million, and then we lower estimates back down to sub 40, and you miss by 4.5 million. And then, you know, a situation like that's kind of a slight miss right there. So, right, that's not too much of a red flag, but you guys can appreciate what I'm saying. Look, see, you know, estimates come up above 50, you're still down here at 38 million. So it's a situation now where we just kind of have these hit or miss, these inconsistencies with the revenue. And that's why I just feel like as long as they keep signing these deals, and of course, as long as there's, you know, conflict everywhere, then a company like POW should surely benefit from these situations. And I'm going to end it there. So once again, this is Stocks by the Numbers. I want to thank you guys for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually very quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky and volatile and very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thanks for stopping by. Have a good day.